You're listening to Weight Loss for Life Coaches, Episode 9, with certified life and weight loss coach, Paige Bowman.
Welcome to Weight Loss for Life Coaches, the weekly podcast for coaches who are growing their coaching business and on their weight loss journey. Each week, we'll be tackling why weight loss feels hard and how to make hitting your weight loss goal the simplest thing you do all day. We are talking all things emotions today, but this will not be the only episode on this topic. There will be so many more episodes on the topic of feelings because feelings and weight loss are so interconnected. So let's do it. I could talk about feelings all day, every day. In fact, I kind of do talk about emotions every single day. It's part of what I do with my clients. We get to know emotions. We get to understand them, get comfortable with them, and know what to do about them instead of using food. So we're going to talk about feelings, emotions, what it has to do with weight loss and food. But first, let's talk about the definition of feelings or emotions. And those are the two words I'm going to use interchangeably in this episode. And what I mean when I say feelings or emotions are the vibration or physical sensation in your body in response to a thought. So when you think something like, I'm really excited, you might start feeling, and you're actually believing that, you might start feeling excitement or joy in your body. And that chemical reaction that we would name joy or excitement in your body shows up in a certain way. Maybe your heart rate goes up, you're taking more breaths, maybe your arms and legs feel buzzy, maybe you get up and you do something. But the emotion or the feeling is in response to a thought. And I could go so much deeper in emotions and feelings in our body and where they come from beyond just our thoughts and the things that we're thinking consciously, but that's for a later episode. Don't worry, we'll get into it. But for today, we're just going to talk about when we think something, a feeling is created in our body. And it can be as simple as that if that serves you. I like thinking about it like that. I like thinking that I can create an emotion and that sometimes an emotion is created by a thought I was thinking. So if I want to check in with what I'm thinking, I can check in with what I'm feeling. And sometimes if I want to feel a certain way, I can think thoughts that create that for myself. And this is part of the mastery of the emotion work that I do with my clients, and that I think has made me so successful in my life, is knowing that I'm in control of my emotions, and sometimes they happen unconsciously, and that's totally okay. Now, here's the thing. Feelings are why we do anything. When you think about the cognitive behavioral therapy method or model when it comes to our thoughts and feelings, or the way the life coach school teaches our thoughts and feelings with the model, right? We have the circumstances in our lives, the way we think about them, and that creates feelings in our body, which we then act or don't do anything from. And then that creates a result in our life. Or if you think about, like I mentioned, the cognitive behavioral therapy method, which is think, feel, do. It's a simpler form of the model, but it's the same idea that you think something and then you feel something and then you do or don't do something. So this idea of we think things that then create this chemical reaction in our body, which then has us doing things or not doing things. So really, it's true. Feelings are the reason why we do anything we do or don't do. And that's an amazing thing because, like I said a little bit ago, you get to be in control of your feelings. And even if your feelings come to you unconsciously, like sometimes I will check in with my emotions. I tend to feel faster than I think. Like I can tell something is going on with an emotion of mine before I know what the thought is for myself. And so even if the feeling kind of pops up in my body and I don't realize why, or I'm kind of surprised by it, that's okay too, because I can interrupt that think, feel, and then do cycle. So it's okay that you have emotions. It's a great thing that feelings are why we do anything, because you can generate emotions and you can also interrupt that feeling and then action cycle. So feelings are a beautiful thing, whether you created them yourself or they happen unconsciously, but they are why we do anything. And this is so good to know when it comes to your weight loss journey, because if feelings are why we do anything, then it's easier to understand why we eat the way we do or why we don't eat the way we want to. So if you're anything like me, you were raised to use food as a way to deal with your emotions. Maybe not in so little words, but something I was taught both by the people around me and by watching TV and commercials is that when I'm stressed, when I'm feeling this anxiety or this overwhelming emotion in my body, the way to handle that is go to food. Food makes that emotion go away or it makes it tolerable. Or if I'm feeling sad or upset and I don't want to feel that or it's uncomfortable and maybe I don't know how to say that, but I just want that to go away, I can go to food, and food is what makes that emotion go away or again, makes it tolerable. Or on the opposite side of that, if I'm feeling excited and I want to celebrate, food is something that I was taught or I learned by observation to go to. Food is something that you use to help you celebrate when you're excited and having fun. Food is a great pairing with that. A lot of the times when we eat food, it is tied to our emotions, whether we're eating because of a feeling or to avoid a feeling. And so it's so good to know when it comes to your weight loss journey. Weight loss is so simple when you get to know your emotions, what you do to avoid them or to push them away or in reaction to an emotion, and then what to do instead once you understand that. Something that I teach my clients and that I worked on myself is getting comfortable with emotions. Not needing to eat because of an emotion or to make it go away has changed the game forever. I know that's true for myself, and I know I see that. And I know that's true for my clients. They tell me all the time that they get comfortable with their emotions. And although it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to feel your emotions instead of eat, it is something that makes doing everything else in your life much, much easier. And if you know that you eat to avoid an emotion or in reaction to an emotion or just to make it more tolerable, knowing what to do if food is no longer an option also makes weight loss so much simpler, because then you don't have to avoid your thoughts or your feelings. You don't have to avoid getting excited because you don't want to eat. You don't have to avoid feeling anxiety or situations where you might feel anxious because you don't want to eat. You can go into those situations and know what to do with an emotion when you're comfortable with it and when you have new and improved tools in your tool belt that helps you handle an emotion. I want to jump into some powerful questions now because I want you thinking about your relationship with your emotions at this moment. Now, I know I'm talking to coaches. I know you're like, Paige, I understand emotions. I coach on them as well. I hear you. But when I ask you these powerful questions, and then I'm going to give you some tips, I want you to think about not your understanding of emotions for your clients or in general, but you and your relationship with your emotions. That's what I want you to think about when I ask you these powerful questions, and then when I give you some tips. So the first powerful question is this: what is your relationship with your emotions, those physical sensations in your body, on a daily basis? What's that relationship like right now? You might want to go ahead and remind yourself that it's okay to be honest with yourself. It's okay to write out these answers. It's okay to see what's going on with yourself and let yourself know you have your own back, because sometimes taking a look at our relationship with our emotions and our thoughts can create that judgment or that criticism. And we just want to get to know ourselves better on this journey. So what's your relationship like with your emotions? What do you do in response to your emotions right now? Is it you go to food? And if so, what's that like? If you were to just get curious with yourself, what emotions tend to cause you to want to eat, to make them more tolerable, or in response to, or to avoid? What other tools do you use to take care of your emotions? Because I'm going to talk about this in one of my tips, but you already do handle your emotions in some form or fashion. So it's just good to acknowledge that. How do you help yourself with your emotions right now? The next question is, what would it be like if you were more comfortable with feeling your feelings? I don't think I've put out an episode about processing your emotions specifically or feeling your feelings yet. So when I say that, what I mean is acknowledging the emotion in your body, taking deep breaths, and letting that emotion leave your body. What would it be like if you were way more comfortable doing that on a daily basis? What would change in your life if that were the case? This is a powerful future you type of envisioning question that I just love thinking about what could be different, how this would be so beneficial to me if this were one of the tools in my tool belt that gets me more compelled and committed to make this change on my journey. And the last question is, how can I take a step towards feeling my feelings and becoming more comfortable with my emotions today? And that leads me into a couple of tips I wanted to leave you with in this episode. The first one is to remember the definition of emotions. They're just chemical reactions that create this physical sensation or this vibration in your body in response to your thoughts. I know I'm breaking it down and it might seem a little silly, but sometimes for me, it's helpful to remember that this strong tightening in my chest, this emotion that has created a lower heart rate and difficulty breathing, is a chemical reaction that's created by the way I'm thinking or what I'm thinking about. And for me, thinking about the definition of a feeling separates myself from experiencing it. So then I can take some deep breaths, remind myself that this is a chemical reaction, nothing's gone wrong. I can feel this emotion instead of going down the rabbit hole of all the things that anxiety has me then thinking about. It can be very tunneling. I think that's how you say it, or like a tunnel vision once you start feeling that emotion. And so anything we can do that kind of takes us a step out of that experience. Another way you can think about it is grounding yourself so that you're not in the emotion as much as processing it and experiencing it. And I like to keep it simple and just remember what an emotion is. My second tip is to consider how you already do experience or deal with or handle your emotions right now. And I know I already said this in the powerful questions, but I think this is really powerful just to acknowledge right now, this is how I handle my emotions. I go to food, I read a book, I listen to music, I dance, I cry. Here are all the ways that I handle my emotions right now. Here are the ones that work for me, and here are the ones I might want to change. And just having that relationship with yourself where you can see what's going on, acknowledge it, and then check in with what you might want to change is super powerful. And it's having you create this trusting relationship with yourself. And this last tip goes well with the powerful questions. And that is in your next self-coaching session, whatever that may look like, and you answer these questions, the powerful questions, ask yourself what the next up level would be like. So if using food was no longer an option in the future to handle your emotions or process your emotions, and you knew that that's what you wanted to work towards, what would the next up level be like? For example, one thing that I started practicing right off the bat when I learned about this kind of work with emotions was using the urge jar. And I think I've talked about the urge jar before, but basically it's a jar that pairs with 100 beads or marbles. And every time you process an emotion, don't push it away or don't eat something to cover it up, you put a bead in the jar. And the goal is to fill up the jar with the 100 beads. And so for myself, my next up level was filling up that urge jar with processing and feeling my feelings rather than covering them up or eating something to make them go away. So my next up level was just to put that into practice. And I did this a couple years ago and I have not stopped since. I love the urge jar. It's still a part of my practice now. And it was a simple way for me to up level my relationship with my emotions. So that's an idea. And that's one that you can put into practice for yourself. All of my clients get their own urge jar when they work with me because it's so good at making it doable to practice your emotions, practice processing and feeling them rather than covering them up or pushing them away or avoiding them. And if that doesn't land for you, just answer the question for yourself. What would the next up level be like if you know the goal is to not go to food to cover up your emotions or make them more tolerable, but the goal is to get more comfortable with your emotions and give yourself other tools in your tool belt to be able to handle them? So answer that question. If you have any questions, you can always send them to me at hello@paigebowman.com, or you can message me on Instagram at lifecoachpaigeb. I love talking about this stuff. I would love to hear your questions or what you came up with, so feel free to reach out to me. And that's it. That's today's episode, y'all. It's the first one focused on feelings, but we are not done yet. There are so many other areas we could have gone into and we will go into in future episodes. But this one I wanted to be jam-packed full of basic information that you can take and run with today. Powerful questions that can help you start up-leveling, and a couple of tips for you to put into practice to help you start towards that future you that is comfortable with their emotions and has mastered that so that their weight loss journey is so much simpler. If you love this episode, leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And for more on simple weight loss, you can always go to paigebowman.com and check out the articles I have on my website, or listen to another episode of the podcast. I always highly recommend episode 5 that talks about the 3 super simple steps. It's such a good episode, and it's one I recommend everyone listen to if they are interested in my podcast. So that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed this encore episode of feelings and look forward to way more. See y'all next week.